obviously I have a couple of ideas, but I'm interested to hear where you think an artist statement would be used. Anyone?
Online, encouraging people to discover really what they want.
Exactly. And there are lots of different ways online they could use your artist statement. It can be in your social media, it can be on your website. If you're working with a gallery, it can be on their website. Any other ideas where you would use your artist statement?
Maybe if you apply to a residency or perhaps studying again or something.
Exactly, that's a fantastic example. So you would use your artist statement when applying for a residency, applying for studying, applying for exhibitions, for fairs if you're working with an artist fair. You can include it in your artist portfolio, which Sam is going to be talking about later, which is again something you would share with the gallery, share with the clients in particular. You can use your artist statement for press releases, things like that. So what all of these things have in common, whether it's online, portfolios, applications, it's a way of getting people to look at your work. So they're very, very closely tied together, and it's a way of getting people to engage with your work and understand your work a bit better. What I think it comes down to is that the art world is about relationships as much as it is about the actual artworks. And I think that's something very important to keep in mind, whether you're an artist, whether you're a curator or a writer or running Art School Africa. It's all about relationships as much as it is about the actual work. So your artist statement is a document that helps create a better relationship with your audience, so that your work does make more of an impact and so people can understand your work more clearly. And it helps the viewer to understand what is essential about you and about your work. So I like to think of your artist statement as a standard for yourself as a person. If you picture yourself in a gallery, someone is looking at your work in an exhibition. Your artist statement is kind of a way of you standing next to this person, explaining your work so that they can gain more insight and more appreciation into what you do. So with that in mind, I think having an artist statement that is more conversational rather than up and asked is a great way of going about things. No one wants to be lectured at when they're looking at artwork. They want to enjoy what they're looking at. So what does an artist statement look like? It's really quite straightforward. It's a series of sentences that describe who you are as an artist, what you make as an artist, why you make it, and how you make it. So that's who, what, why, and how. So everything that you will put in your artist statement basically answers those questions. And there might be maybe little questions that I understand artists can be quite difficult. So the first exercise we do today, we'll be looking at examples of how artists do this. But first, I just want to cover kind of basic elements of style, because I think that's a question that a lot of artists struggle with, is what should this look like, how should it be, what do I put in, what not. So if you look at the first page of your handouts, we're going to go through that shortly, but first I just want to keep reminding you that your artist statement is about making people want to engage with your work. So whenever you're writing about your work, that's what you need to come back to, is wanting to make people engage with your work. So if we're looking at page 1, there's a yes list of things that should be in your artist statement, or what it should look like, and there's a list of those. We're going to go through those kind of one by one. Your artist statement, you should be talking about I. You should be using the first person rather than talking about he, she, they. You should be talking about yourself. You want people to know about who you are, so you talk about your work as I and we. I do sometimes use he, she, they because I'm writing from the point of view of a gallery, or if a statement exists on a gallery website, that's where you would maybe see that. But if you're putting this on your website or in an application for a residency than me and I. And that's it as well. You should be using your own voice. Like I said, no one wants to be lectured at, no one wants to be bored by your artist statement. People want to know who you are, so you should be using your own voice. Your own personality should be showing through your work. A good way to achieve that is once you have your artist statement draft, is to record yourself reading it aloud. If you can stand, listen to your own voice, and play that back and see how it comes across. Does it sound like you? Or does it sound like you trying to be someone else? Something that a lot of people forget in their artist statement is you are still actually talking about your work, so you need to describe what your work looks like. And I'm talking about the physical aspects of your work. Are you a painter? Are you a photographer? Are you an abstract painter? You need to be specific in describing your work. You want people to be able to read your artist statement and almost be able to picture what your work looks like just from reading it. And that's something I find a lot of artists do forget when writing their statement, is they're so wrapped up in ideas and concepts that they forget that it is about the work. Your artist statement needs to be short. You don't need to write an essay or a thesis about it. Literally 150 to 400 words maximum. That's it. So I do hope that idea kind of takes some pressure off you, because that's all you need to produce your artist statement. Especially these days, everyone's attention spans are really short, so short and sweet is good. Obviously then, if you're doing an exhibition, your exhibition statement can be longer. If you are studying and writing thesis, of course it can be longer, but for an artist statement, short. And part of being short is being concise. What concise means is that you're giving information clearly and in few words. So a good way to achieve that is through using simple phrases. So when I write, I like to go back and see what I can take out and still be saying the same thing. There's a beautiful quote from William Strunk Jr., who wrote Elements of Style, who says, "A sentence should contain no unnecessary words. A paragraph, no unnecessary sentences, for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts." So an example would be saying, what I hope my paintings aim to achieve is to reveal the existence of an afterlife. That's a long and complicated sentence, which is unnecessary. You can strip that right down by taking out half his words and just saying, my paintings reveal the existence of an afterlife. So when you write something, you can always go back and see what you can take out and say the same thing. Another thing I find artists struggle with is including pertinent information. That means information that is relevant to your work and to your audience. So if you studied nursing, unless your artwork is about that, don't include that information. Information should only be about your work. Full sentences, I feel that should maybe go without saying, but it is sometimes forgotten. You don't want to be too pompous with your writing, but you do also want to write clearly and in full sentences. Your information should be accurate. So if you are painting small works, but you want to paint giant ones, you still need to talk about the fact that you're painting small works. But kind of like lying on the CV, something that should be avoided. And then the last one for your artist statement in the years column is spell check. Most word processors have spell checks inbuilt. These days a lot of them have grammar checks built in as well, so make use of those. And like with any document, I would always give it to someone else to read before you send it anywhere. I don't more than one person. Any questions about the yes? Okay, we're going to move on to no, because I think it's just as important to look at what shouldn't go into your artist statement, or what it shouldn't look like, as what it should look like. The first item is repetition. I think because you consider your work very important, obviously, and you want to explain it, you might want to say the same thing in more than one way. It's completely unnecessary. Again, go back over your statement and take out items where you said the same thing in a different way. Complicated vocabulary, please do not use the word liminal or palimpsest or anything like that. Because your audience is going to be quite broad, especially if you are posting on social media. You have to understand that most people don't know what liminal means or what a palimpsest is. There's no need to use phrases like that just to impress people unless you're literally talking about thresholds or palimpsests. It's unnecessary. So keep your vocabulary simple, keep your technical vocabulary simple as well. A lot of people won't understand the extremely intricate vocabulary around file making, so it's not really necessary to include all of that. Long sentences, again, people have short attention spans. You want to remember the beginning of a sentence by the time you get to the end of it, so keep your sentences short and clear. Similarly to the complicated vocabulary, no one wants to read about theory or theorists. Don't include references to reader or psychogeography or someone like that unless it is extremely relevant. Unless you're making work about the reader, don't include mentions of theorists in your statements. References to your childhood. Most artists have been interested in being creative since they were children. No one cares. What is important is what you are doing now. Of course, your childhood can be relevant to your work, and in that case include it, but don't talk about how you have been making art since you were a child. Similarly, cliches, they're very, very easy to use because they provide an easy way of saying something. I use them a lot when I'm speaking, I try and avoid them when I'm writing. An example would be like, my work is a feast for the eye. What does that actually mean? There are different ways of saying that. Going back to the yes column with information being accurate, what you don't want to do with your artist statements is bragging or boasting or using hyperbole. Honestly, your work is not unique. Your work is not iconic or groundbreaking. So kind of just keep your descriptions accurate. There's no need to brag or boast about what you're doing. And then the last one, and this is a personal pet peeve of mine, is what's described as a weak phrase. When you're writing about your work, you really should be believing in yourself. So you don't need to say, I am trying to do this. What I hope my work achieves. Your work achieves it. You are doing it. So you can avoid phrases like trying, hope, aiming, things like that.